done. Yeah. So I will present some work that I done in last few years during my PhD at Le Havre University Normandy within in the latest laboratory, and also I will introduce my project for this year. So I will introduce to you the topics of this presentation. I will present some models, some analysis to modeling the morphogenesis of string network, and at the end I will show some idea to integrate the growth of street network with the requirement of human to move over the city. So the topics is around urban system. In this work, we will consider the cities under the complexity theory point of view. So basically, we consider that there are a huge number of elements, heterogeneous elements that interact each other, and due to their interaction, we can observe unexpected behavior and the formation of new form and new structure. Clearly, an important part of an urban system is probably the street network that represents the backbone of the city, and also a street network can basically modeled with graph theory. Typically, is a geometric planar graph where nodes are embedded in a two-dimensional Euclidean space, and the links represent the support of the system to work. So the focus of this work is around is to understand how the street network grow during the time and evolve during the time. So before to see how we can simulate and model that, we have to have a look on the properties, basic properties that you can see in a street network. Typically, we observe that the shape of the degree distribution that is picked around 3 typically, and quickly decrease. We also observe some kind of hierarchies over this network, and can be analyzed and discovered, for example, with the betweenness centrality. So we observe that some paths are more important than others. We also observe that those networks are very robust and resilient. That means basically that are there are a big giant component, and there are many patterns that between two distinct nodes. And finally, we observe that those networks are composed by some substructure with particular characteristics. This is the example of the city center of Le Havre, and outside is around the city center. Few observations that we can do on very basically observation that we can do around a city. City clearly is embedded in a place, so there are an environment that the constraint its growth. Then there are some important part of the city is the physical their physical element, so the urban fabrics built up on street, for example. Then we also observe that there are some characteristics, some properties of a city that are constrained in a specific area, and so we observe in a top-down point of view, we observe some patterns. Those patterns are not static; they evolve during the time, and the constraint they to each other and clearly those there are a string network that arrange those patterns and arrange the system, allow the people to move. The street are not evolved during the time, and there are a feedback that we can observe between the street and the pattern. The pattern evolved during the time, the street too. So you can see that a city can be considered as a multi-layer of different aspects, that each layer is interact each other, is related, and there are a lot of feedback between those layers that allow the system to work. Then a second aspect to seize our inspiration to consider those patterns. This we have a bio inspired aspiration. More precisely is around the reaction diffusion theory. That is this theory proposed by Turing in 70 years ago. Is based on the idea of morphogens. Morphogens are considered like a moving element that move over on surface of a space, and those elements interact each other. So there are a reaction on one side. There are they can move and they can move over the space. So you can model that like a diffusion. The point is that these morphogens are form productive. So that means when they cluster, they arrange with some regularity, they drive the transformation of the system, and in this way we can try to reply the form that you can observe on the skin of the animal. That is the idea. And also those model, basically with changing some parameters, we can create a lot of different interesting patterns. So keep in mind all those ideas. I propose to you to see this model. The model that I proposed is a multi-layer model, where basically the first layer is here, where we have a reaction diffusion mechanism applied on a regular grid. So I inspired by cellular automata theory to do that. When we observe some patterns, the model generate a vector field due to the gradient of this kind of the concentration of morphogens. This vector field constraint the growth of a spatial network. At the end, we close the loop. And we put some transformation of the environment that is around of all these three layers, in order to consider that the growth of the network change some properties and the way that morphogens arrange themselves. So I can show us quickly a few simulation. We can see the first layer is here. That is the reaction diffusion layer. The second layer is here, is the vector field layer. And here we have the third layer, this is the network that grows during the time. As we can see, you need just to change the parameters of the reaction diffusion layer. All the other parameters are static, are the same, and you can observe different kind of network in terms of growth and in terms of structure and also of the properties. I will show them. We can quantitatively measure that in next few minutes. But before to see how we can measure these properties, I want to point out the very important role that the feedback mechanism. We can see here a reaction diffusion layer in this one, and the string network and the evolving network that you have. We see that is quite similar, quite symmetric. We also see that there are a very strong correlation between them, and also we observe patterns that are very classical pattern. What happened when you put the feedback? That is exactly the same parameters of the first simulation. And we obtain 3 different C parameters. We just change how we can make this kind of feedback. And we see a better correlation between the network and the reaction diffusion layer. We also observe that the growth is changed. It's not just to change, depends of parameters that that we set up on the growth of the network. They also depends of this kind of interaction. And finally, we observe the emerging of mixed and unexpected pattern that we cannot see in a classical and static version of the model. So now we have clearly we have to measure it and quantitatively understand the behavior of this model, and see also if these properties are close or not with street networks. So to do that, basically, I used a set of data. I considered the French department city, the street network French department city. We also considered the street network of Le Havre in Normandy. 6 theoretical geometrical planar graph. We can find all those properties in the literature, and clearly the simulation that I done. And the first indicator maybe is very basic, but it's the starting point to understand this kind of this kind of network is is the degree distribution. As we say before, they typically are picked around 3 and decrease very quickly. This is what you obtain from my simulation, and I compared with the French department cities. We have a very similar distribution, and we also observe that it's completely different what you observe in theoretical graph. That are sometimes are strongly hierarchized when we have a probabilistic function that drive the growth of those network. Or for example, they are picked but not around 3, are picked around 5, 6, 7. So another important properties is the robustness of the network, and that means what happened to the network when remove some part of the network and see if it's still connected. And how we can measure that? We measure that with consider the Jant component. We can make a set of iteration where at each time step we remove a fraction of the network, and we will consider when we measured this. We consider how it evolved during the simulation. We averaged this value at the average of this value around over 100 runs, and also we classically robustness is considered when we reach the half of the Jant component is the half of the number of elements, so it is around the year. And we will see the data what you have, and we can we see the fraction of removed vertices. That is how we can compute the data, we can measure that. And then we also measure the data of French department cities, and also our theoretical graph before to consider our networks. And we see that is the in gray line are the shape of the evolution of the robustness for the French department cities. And we see that robustness of all network, all theoretical graph are all more than cities or less in the case of the 3 network, as we expected actually. And then at the end we compared with our networks. And we see that is all the colored line and the black line also, that is our simulation that are very, very close, and in the number, in the value of the robustness, and also how it evolved during the time, are very close to the city, is in the gray behind. And then another indicator, another consideration that you have is around the scale invariance of the some properties of the network. That is a property that we can observe typically in all complex system, and with different kind and typically different form. Typically, it is measured with fractal theory, and the basic indicator that we can analysis we can do is using the boxing counting algorithm. So just consider the geometrical position location of nodes of the network, and create a regular grid on the over that, and change the size of the box, so increment or reduce the area of each box, and count how many nodes we have, if there are nodes or not in each box. And we can plot that, and we can see the shape. And in this simulation, we see that in the gray area, we have the city is here, and all other this other area is a set of simulation that we done. So we see that some of them is just in the correspond on the city, and in the colored dots is a few example that we have. So we see that fractal is very close to the scale invariance is very close to urban system. Another experiment that we done is to try to integrate the other aspect of the urban system that can drive the growth of the network. That is done with integrated a second vector field in the environment of the model, and as we can see, it just depends how we set up our second vector field. We can create a different form of the vector that here and here we have to cone, and depends of the magnitude of the vector. We can not alone the network to grow in this area, so like I see, or maybe like an hill. So it depends of the magnitude of the vector, and also depend of the shape of the network. We can model this kind of situation like a river. So it is very easy to integrate it, and also it's very easy to integrate that with real geographical data. So we have done different kind of simulation and analysis, and now we will try to simulate this model in a real context. And we consider for this first example the city, the town of Fécamp in Normandy, and we also consider in our model other aspects, not just the reaction diffusion and the internal parameters that we consider. We consider clearly, we consider the string network of today, and we also integrated orography with the methodology that I showed before, in the coupled with a second vector field, and also we consider some other aspects like the build-up, like the green hour, or also some political decision, in the meaning that to each to an area of the city, we can add a probability to growth or not of the network, and that is in a very intuitive and very simple methods to integrate some political decision, for example. More or less straight in a green area. We can handle this aspect. We make some simulation, with simulation, and we analyze our results, because the goal is to see the obtained network is a realistic first step, and also if you obtain a different kind of network in order to create some scenario. And for example, here we have the same indicators, the same starting point, and we just change the parameters in the reaction diffusion layer. And we can see that the arrangement of the most important, the most central dots computed with between centrality change is different. It depends just on the kind of the pattern that you use. But we also consider other indicator to validate this idea. For example, the vertex degree distribution. We see that is still very similar what you observed in the other circumstance, in the other string network, and we see that we have some difference in the degree distribution, and between central distribution it is different. And we see that all those networks that you obtain are very increment the tree-like structure and the bifurcation, because we consider our model completely decentralized, and actually is a bit was we expected. So in order to conclude this part, we can resume that the model is completely decentralized, is dynamics based on a set of feedback that links different layers, and we observe that obtained network are very, very close to real string network. So it means that is a good starting point to consider this model. Then also, how we can do with this model. First of all, we can consider the morphogenesis of a string network. And the second aspect that we can consider is that it can be very helpful for urban planner when you have to take some decisions. Have different The second aspect that I will focus is around the idea of morphogenesis of string network. We showed in this work that it's not just something that depends of endogenous factor of the network, so like the rate of growth of the network, some topological geometrical characteristic, and also we add some randomness in the process of the growth, but it also depend of exogenous aspect like the pattern formation and the feedback. So exogenous aspect of the network and the intersection of all those kind of those dynamics drive the model to unexpected behavior and what is typical observed in a complex system. And also what we can say about the reaction diffusion theory. First of all, I will recall that morphogens are spatial and embedded, interact each other, and they can eventually arrange with some regularity when they find some equilibrium between them, some dynamic or static equilibrium also. Moreover, those morphogens are of two kinds of morphogens we have in a reaction diffusion system that are typically called the activator and inhibitor of the growth. So we can see the analogy with many real situation of an urban system. You can model it, for example, some economical factor that inhibits the growth in area and are connected with some other aspect like population that represent an activator for the growth of a network. And finally, we also observe that if you consider the mechanism, the reaction diffusion theory, behind the morphogenesis of an astronode network, we say that actually it is possible to do that. So it is just an early proof, the first in this topic that can be useful, and we can improve in next year this idea. But clearly, there are some limits that I have observed in during this analysis. All depends of which kind of question we want to ask also, and which kind of mechanism we want to model it. For example, the first one is the morphogens. Actually, with the morphogens, we cannot simulate the individuality of them. So how they can choose and choice and take decision. We cannot actually. And also, we observe that this model is considered the dynamics of this model is considered how it grew, how it evolved during the time, how it changed this some geometrical or topological properties. But actually, we does not consider the dynamic that we can have over the network, like for example the people that move, that so all the transport all the problem linked to the mobility and transportation. And also morphogens, as I said before, is not just how the network, the system in general grow in the time, and is also how it transformed during the time. The problem is how we do, to better consider both of those aspects. And why I ask myself actually about that, because I still interested on the evolution of urban system, and also I have a very basically consideration when is or consider the reality. That is, for example, the example of the Quai de Bercy in Paris, and the evolution I've just take to screenshot in 1916 and 2020. And what we can see, we see that there are the train station that transform. We see that some residential areas actually they are reorganized. There are new bridge, there are new street, there are reorganized the street. There are the bridge changed. Also there are different mobility mode of some bridge. So just we can see that an important aspect to understand how the difference between two time of a cities is around the mobility drive, the requirement of human to move over the space, drive the transformation of the system of the system. So how we can better consider that. Basically, we have mobility on one side that transform the urban form, and on the other side we have the form of the urban that impact the mobility. So this last step is because the properties of the network and in general of the urban system can drive the mobility. And that is important to see how they are connected, those two aspects, and we see how we can have how this loop is actually is done. It is clearly very important to consider a new form of mobility in order to better investigate the future of the city. We have also to consider that the network of the transportation network is not just a static layer; is a dynamic network, and also it is composed by different mode. Typically, we can model that with like a multi-layer, and we have to consider that. And the last step to consider is also that individual take their decision autonomously, and also considering their environment. Clearly, it's not easy to model those aspects, and also there are different challenges. One of them is from technological point of view. The problem is that we need a multimodal transportation network that evolve during the time, and also we have to couple that with with a micro simulator of individual. Now actually there not exist a simulator that can allow to model that, and The proposition on this work is to start in with Maxim, that is a multi-agent transportation simulation framework, that is the acronym. And basically we have a set of agents that what is assigned a set of activity, and those activity are define a plan, different plan that because there are different kind of agent create a pattern of plan, and those plan and the agent also are their movement, they're constrained by the network, so they move around our network. An important aspect of Maxim, it's open access, is in Java, is modular, and is completely extendable. And how it works? It starts with an input where we have the plan, we have the agent, and we have the network. It starts the simulation. We compute a different plan, and each agent scoring this result. For example, it consider if to take too much time in a congestion area, it is late, it's not it passes a lot of time in a public transportation vehicle, for example. So he scored that, and then we replan his trip in order to better to fit some what is attend. And when you close the loop with end a day, we create several we have a loop of we have several loop of interaction, and at the end of a few interaction, we see that the model reach a stochastic equilibrium, and when we reach that, we can analyze the results. So the proposition is to add a new loop that in the when you obtain the results, and where we will scoring the flow and the characteristic that over the network. So, for example, the congestion of some street, of the number of people that prefer to use some the specific mode of moving. Consider this kind of aspect, and then replanning the network, make some the flow, and restart the simulation. Then at this time we restart the simulation, the agent will do their simulation, and then we will see the result, and we see if you reach an equilibrium. In this way we obtain an evolving multimodal transportation network. And an important aspect, that the network will transform locally some properties of the network, transform locally, and in accordance of the merging of some particular situation. So in order to conclude, I show the next step of my work. The first of all is to formalize this library that I think that will be in Python, and make a consistent data set of at least 2 case studies. We will see we will compare the Paris and Beijing, and also when you simulated obtained our simulation, we have to consider 2 important aspects. The first one is around the network, how it changed. The connectivity, the robustness, some geometrical or topological characteristics change during this after the simulation, and the first one. And the second one is to consider what is the impact of the urban mobility. So if our increase or not congestion, pollution, and some indicator like that. And at the end, an important aspect is to create to make some what if scenario, in the meaning that we can suggest on policymaker decision to the policymaker some good strategies to improve the quality of life of the humans, and improve and suggest them with some scenario and what happened when they take some decision. So thank you so much.